You this. It's something how the media likes to skew things, you know? They like to do a little thing called cut and paste, a little bit of clip art or something like that. You know what I mean? I don't even know. I just wish people would tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth, right? Right. Well, guess what? My name is Mike and welcome. Come on in. This is the Mike Martin Podcast. But first, I want you to do one thing for me. What? Like, click, and subscribe. Bing, ding. You got it. All right. Anyways, we're going to show you two different versions of the same meeting from today. Yeah, that's right. Two different versions. And you tell me which one seems a little bit more truthful, all right? All right, we'll get right back with you.
Weigh in on this? Do you plan to return him?
Well, I'm supposed to not suggesting that I smuggle terrorists into the United States, right? How can I return him to the United States? Like, I smuggle him into the United States, or what do I do? Of course, I'm not going to do it. It's like, the question is preposterous. How can I smuggle a terrorist into the United States? I don't have the power to return him to the United States.
You can release him inside El Salvador.
Yeah, but I'm not releasing. We're not very fond of releasing terrorists into our country. We just turned the murder capital of the world into the safest country of the Western Hemisphere, and you want us to go back into the releasing criminals so we can go back to being the murder capital of the world? No, that's not going to happen.
They'd love to have a criminal, released into our country.
There's a fascination.
They would love it.
Yeah.
They're sick. These are sick people.
That was Donald Trump in El Salvador and President Nayib Bukele in the Oval Office, wherein Bukele confirmed that he will not return Kilmar Abrego Garcia to the United States, which of course stands in defiance of a unanimous Supreme Court ruling demanding his return, in that he was not afforded due process before being shipped off to a foreign gulag. And I want to be clear right off the bat. If Trump's administration refuses to comply with the Supreme Court's ruling, then we are officially in constitutional crisis territory. And look, I've maintained that we're already in a constitutional crisis, but legally speaking, it would occur when the Supreme Court issues a ruling where the White House refuses to abide by it. Meaning, fewer than 100 days into office, the President of the United States has overtly defied the U.S. Constitution and plunged this country into a true crisis of democracy, all under the message that Donald Trump is sending. Not only that he's defying a Supreme Court ruling and inciting a constitutional crisis, but doing so while standing next to a dictator, all but broadcasting where he stands, how he views himself, and the future he is trying to usher in.
That's bullshit! That's bullshit! That's bullshit! That's bullshit! That's bullshit!
Oh, well, allow me to retort.
Wait a minute. Can you just also respond to that question? Because, it's asked by CNN, and they always ask it with a slant, because they're totally slanted because they don't know what's happening. That's why nobody's watching them. But would you answer that question also, please?
Yes, gladly. So, as Pam mentioned, there's an illegal alien from El Salvador. So, with respect to you, he's a citizen of El Salvador. So, it's very arrogant even for American media to suggest that we would even tell El Salvador how to handle their own citizens as a starting point. As two immigration courts found that he was a member of MS-13. When President Trump declared MS-13 to be a foreign terrorist organization, that meant that he was no longer eligible under federal law, which I'm sure you know, you're very familiar with the INA, that he was no longer eligible for any form of immigration relief in the United States. So he had a deportation order that was valid, which meant that under our law, he's not even allowed to be present in the United States and had to be returned because of the foreign terrorist designation. This issue was then, by a district court judge, completely inverted, and a district court judge tried to tell the administration that they had to kidnap a citizen of El Salvador and fly him back here. That issue was raised to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said the district court order was unlawful, and its main components were reversed 9-0 unanimously, stating clearly that neither Secretary of State nor the President could be compelled by anybody to forcibly retrieve a citizen of El Salvador from El Salvador, who again is a member of MS-13, which, as I'm sure you understand, rapes little girls, murders women, murders children, is engaged in the most barbaric activities in the world, and I can promise you if he was your neighbor, you would move right away.
So you don't plan
But
to
the
ask for
Supreme
anyone
Court's
to get him
asking
back?
to.
And what was the ruling in the Supreme Court, Steve? Was it 9-0?
Yes, it was a 9-0
In our favor.
in our favor against the district court ruling, saying that no district court has the power to compel the foreign policy function of the United States. As Pam said, the ruling solely stated that if this individual at El Salvador's sole discretion was sent back to our country, that we could deport him a second time.
Well,
No version of this legally ends up with him ever living here because he is a citizen of El Salvador. That is the president of El Salvador. Your questions about it, per the court, can only be directed to him.
I asked President Bukele.
You got to do certain shit. It's just enough that people know that, you know, I go where I need to go to get it done. If you push my button, there's no telling what I may do. Stab you, choke you, bite you.
How can I return him to the United States? Like, I smuggle him into the United States, or what do I do? Of course, I'm not going to do it. It's like, I mean, the question is preposterous. How can I smuggle a terrorist into the United States? I don't have the power to return him to the United States.
But you can release him inside El Salvador.
Yeah, but I'm not releasing, I mean, we're not very fond of releasing terrorists into our country. I mean, we just turned the murder capital of the world into the safest country in the Western Hemisphere, and you want us to go back into the releasing criminals so we can go back to being the murder capital of the world? No, that's not going to happen.
Well, they'd love to have a criminal, you know, released into our
I mean, there's a fascination.
They would love it.
Yeah.
They're sick. These are sick people. Mark, Gibbs.
Okay, now we have the facts, don't we? See, now we know exactly what's been going on. You'd think that you're just illegally deporting someone, not giving them their fair shake, right? Not giving their due process. But guess what? Since 2019, some little yahoo over there, little gangbanging buddy, was over there doing what? Bad stuff. And he was illegal. Illegal, that's right. Not legal. So, should he have been deported? Hell freaking yeah, he should have been deported. Should he come back? FYI? Don't think so. I don't think so. No way. Anyways, let's just keep our ears and our eyes open, all right? Let's do that. Because when we think about things, we think, hey, this sounds good. This is true, right? No, it's not true. It's not true. You have to look at every single side of things. And don't just always believe what you hear, people. All right, I'm done with my rant for now. But remember, if the grass doesn't grow, get your dog outside, feed him some kibbles and bits, and let him go to town. It's a true story. Bye.
I'm real.